Welcome to Whispering Cottage Tales, a channel where timeless stories, gentle narration, and quiet atmospheres help you drift into rest. Welcome, weary traveler. Before we begin tonight's journey into rest, I invite you to let go of everything you've been carrying. Release the day's weight from your shoulders. Feel your body sink deeper into comfort with each breath. Tonight, I'll walk beside you through snow-covered streets, past glowing windows, to a place where time slows and peace settles like fresh snow on old cobblestones. Close your eyes now. Breathe slowly. Let my voice guide you gently towards sleep. The last light of December afternoon had faded behind the rooftops, leaving the village wrapped in that particular blue darkness that comes only in deep winter. Snow had been falling since noon, soft and persistent, transforming the narrow streets into something from a watercolor painting, half dissolved by mist. Each lamppost along the main thoroughfare stood waiting, unlit, their iron frames collecting snow like patient sentinels, marking the path through gathering night. Thomas Blackwell emerged from the lamplighter's cottage at the edge of the square, carrying his long brass lighting pole and the familiar leather satchel that held his tools. He had walked these streets for 40 years, lighting the village lamps each evening as dusk descended. And now his movements carried the unhurried grace of ritual, perfected through countless repetitions. He wore a heavy coat, the color of charcoal, its wool dense enough to turn away wind, and a scarf his late wife had knitted, soft against his weathered face. The first lamp stood beside the baker's shop, where warmth still radiated through the windows, and the scent of the day's final loaves lingered in the cold air. Thomas paused there, as he always did, lifting his pole with practiced ease. The mechanism at its end engaged the lamp's gas valve with a satisfying click, and a moment later, flame bloomed inside the glass housing, casting amber light across the snow-covered street. He stood for a moment, watching that first light push back against the darkness. There was something deeply satisfying about it, the simple act of bringing illumination to the winter evening. The lamp's glow fell across the baker's window, reflecting off the glass in warm ripples that made the interior seem even more inviting. Inside, he could see Mr. Brennan sweeping flour from the wooden counter, moving with the tired contentment of someone whose work was nearly done. Thomas continued along the street, his boots leaving deep prints in the fresh snow. The second lamp stood outside the bookshop, where Mrs. Alderton was just turning her sign to closed. She glanced up as the lamp flared to life and offered him a small wave through the window. He touched his cap in return, a gesture repeated so many times between them that it had become its own form of conversation, requiring no words. Each lamp brought its own pool of light, and as Thomas progressed through the village, the street behind him began to glow like a string of amber pearls laid across white velvet. The snow continued falling, each flake drifting through the lamplight before settling softly on the ground. The world had grown profoundly quiet, the way it does when snow muffles every sound except the whisper of its own descent. At the corner where the street widened into the village square, Thomas lit the tall lamp that stood beside the old stone fountain, now frozen and draped with icicles that caught the new light and threw it back in crystalline fragments. The square stretched empty before him, its benches buried under snow, the memorial oak at its center standing dark and magnificent, its bare branches holding the weight of winter with patient dignity. He crossed the square slowly, lighting each of the 6 lamps that ringed its perimeter, With each flame kindled, the square transformed further, becoming a room of sorts, walled by darkness but roofed with falling snow, its floor glowing with reflected lamplight. A few windows in the buildings surrounding the square showed their own light, parlor lamps and hearth fires creating small beacons of domesticity that seemed to answer his street lamps in a gentle dialogue between public and private illumination. The chemist's shop, the tailor, the tea room, each building received its appointed light as Thomas made his methodical way around the square. He had learned the character of every lamp over the years. Some lit eagerly, their flames springing to life at first touch. Others required patience, a second attempt, a gentle adjustment. He treated each with the same careful attention, understanding that reliability came from respect for small rituals faithfully observed. Past the square, the street narrowed again, climbing gently toward the church at the village's highest point. The lamps here stood further apart, creating islands of light separated by stretches of snow-blue darkness. Thomas walked through these shadows without concern, knowing every stone and curb, every slight unevenness in the pavement beneath the snow. He passed the doctor's house, where a light burned in the study window. Dr. Whitmore often worked late, reading medical journals or preparing medicines in his small laboratory. Thomas had known him for 30 years, had lit these same lamps on the night each of the doctor's 3 children were born, and on the quiet evening when his wife had passed away 5 springs ago. The continuity of his rounds meant Thomas had witnessed the village's life in all its variations, marking time not by calendar dates, but by the accumulation of lit lamps. The progression of seasons reflected in how early darkness fell and how cold his fingers grew while working the lighting mechanism. The church stood at the street's end, its stone tower rising into the falling snow. The lamp beside its gate was the largest in the village, an ornate Victorian piece with 4 glass panels and decorative ironwork that cast intricate shadows when lit. Thomas took particular care with this one, ensuring the flame burned steady and bright. When he stepped back to admire his work, the light fell across the church's carved wooden door and illuminated the small graveyard to one side, where snow had softened the hard lines of old headstones into gentle curves. His wife rested there, beneath a simple stone marker near the ancient yew tree. Thomas glanced that direction as he did each evening, offering a moment of quiet acknowledgement before turning back down the hill. The gesture had long since ceased to bring sharp pain. Instead, it had become a part of his round's rhythm, a brief pause that felt more like touching home base than dwelling in sorrow. Descending from the church, he turned onto Willow Lane, where smaller houses crowded close together, their windows glowing with the warm light of evening meals and family gatherings. Children's faces appeared occasionally in those windows, watching the lamplighter at his work, and Thomas made sure to offer them a wave or a smile, remembering how he had watched the village lamplighter as a boy, thinking it the most magical occupation imaginable. The lamps on Willow Lane were older, simpler in design, but they served their purpose faithfully. One by one, they came to life under his attention, creating a corridor of light that guided workers home from the mill at the village edge, their forms appearing as dark silhouettes against the snow until they passed into each lamp's pool of illumination, becoming briefly visible before fading again into the spaces between lights. At the lane's end stood the mill itself, already dark for the day, its great wheel locked motionless and collecting snow. 2 lamps flanked the mill bridge, and when Thomas lit them, their light fell across the stream below, illuminating the dark water flowing between banks thick with ice. The stream's movement and the falling snow created a hypnotic scene, all motion and stillness intertwined. And Thomas paused there longer than usual, watching the interplay of light, water, and falling white. His route curved back toward the village center now, following the stream along a path lined with willows, whose bare branches hung low over the water. The lamps here stood at wider intervals, meant more to mark the path's existence than to fully illuminate it. Between their pools of light, darkness reigned, but it was a comfortable darkness, the kind that makes the next lamp's glow seem all the more welcoming. He met few people on this stretch. An elderly couple walking arm in arm, bundled against the cold, who nodded as they passed. A young woman hurrying home from work, her breath visible in small clouds. A tabby cat that appeared from behind a fence post, regarded him with luminous eyes, then disappeared as silently as it had come. Each encounter felt like a brief, shared acknowledgement of the winter evening's particular magic. The snow, the lamplight, the village settling into night's embrace. The path along the stream eventually returned him to the main street, where shops were now fully dark, except for the occasional security lamp left burning in back rooms. The street itself glowed with the lights he had kindled an hour before, still burning steadily, pushing back the darkness just as they would continue doing through the long night ahead. His final lamp stood along Merchant's Row, where the village's oldest buildings leaned close together, like elderly friends sharing secrets. The lamps here were the first installed when the village got gas lighting. Their ornate posts, decorated with flourishes that spoke of Victorian optimism about progress and improvement. Thomas had maintained them since he was a young man, first working alongside old Samuel Fletcher, then taking over the route when Samuel retired. One by one, these last lamps flickered to life, until the entire street glowed with warm light that reflected off shop windows and cast long shadows from hanging signs. The pharmacy, the stationer, the greengrocer. Each building received its measure of light. Each dark doorway was banished by the lamp's steady glow. When the final lamp was lit, Thomas stood at the street's end and looked back along the glowing thoroughfare. His round was complete. Every street and lane, every square and corner, every bridge and pathway had its light burning against the winter darkness. The village was illuminated, safe, guided through another evening by the lamps he had faithfully kindled. He began the walk home, his pole resting on his shoulder, his breath rising in small clouds. The snow had lightened to scattered flakes that drifted lazily through the lamplight, no longer falling with purpose, but simply meandering through the cold air as if reluctant to settle. His cottage waited at the square's edge, its own windows glowing with the fire he had banked that morning, now built back up by the neighbor boy, who stopped in each afternoon to tend it. As he walked, Thomas felt the satisfaction that came from work well done, from duty faithfully executed. 40 years of lighting these lamps, and the task still brought him peace. There was something fundamentally good about bringing light to darkness, about marking the safe paths through winter nights, about maintaining this small but essential service that allowed the village to live its life regardless of season or weather. The snow continued its gentle descent. The lamps burned steadily in their appointed places. The village settled into evening's embrace, warm and lit and secure. And Thomas Blackwell, having completed his round, turned toward home with the quiet contentment of someone whose work, though simple, was exactly right. Let the image of those glowing lamps stay with you now. Feel their warmth, see their light pushing back the darkness. You are safe, you are warm. The day's journey is complete. Rest now. Let sleep find you as gently as snow falling on a quiet street. Good night.